We are looking at the Sermon on the Mount and the phrases that Jesus used to go beyond the letter of the law to deal with the thoughts and the intents of a person's heart before God. Good morning. This is Pastor Ernie Lewis of the Blue Point Church in Sisney, Illinois, with your thoughts for Tuesday. Again, Jesus confronts the traditional beliefs and the teachings of the religious crowd there in Jerusalem. They all knew the Ten Commandments. They sought their own justification by keeping the letter of the law with each of these rules and statutes that were given to them by Moses from God. So when Jesus said to them in Matthew chapter 5 and verse 27, "You have heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not commit adultery." Well, they were ready and eager to reinforce those teachings against adultery. And these listening to Jesus' sermon had restricted the breach of it to acts of criminal intercourse between two individuals within the bonds or without the bonds of holy matrimony. This would seem like the logical interpretation for a person with a legalistic attitude, right? But Jesus carried this to the thoughts and the intent of a person's heart beyond the physical actions here. He says to them in verse 28, "But I say to you that whoever looks upon a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart." Now, only Jesus could see into a man's heart, right? And lust is a dangerous animal that we should avoid at all costs. James chapter 1 even tells us each one is tempted when he is drawn away by his own lusts and is enticed. Then, when lust has conceived, it gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is full grown, brings forth death. So Jesus is trying to warn us that holding our actions at bay is not all that is needed. It is one thing to avoid adultery, but that look or that lingering look of lust can be so dangerous. Now, we may be fooled into thinking that no one can see our thoughts. No one actually knows what lust is harboring in our hearts toward another person. But of course, God knows all our intimate secrets, even the thoughts and the intents of the heart. Perhaps if we consider the story of David and Bathsheba, we find that David was walking on his rooftop one afternoon, looking around when he saw this beautiful woman bathing on her roof. And lingering with his stare not only brought about a lust that Jesus said already was adultery, but it also caused David to act upon his lust, to bring her to the palace where there he had sex with this married woman. You know, there may have been those in the crowd where Jesus taught who could recall times in their own lives when they looked upon another person with lust in their hearts. I mean, thinking they had gotten away with it, and certainly no one knew their thoughts. So Jesus is simply reminding us that sin is not just an action, it may be an attitude of the heart. As a matter of fact, it may be the unchecked lust that we harbor toward another person. I'm sure this crowd was shocked to hear Jesus talk about adultery as an act of the heart. Many religious people may have thought they had fooled everyone by their actions or their restraint of their sinful actions, but Jesus spoke about their thoughts and the condition of their heart. This is a reminder for us today to keep our thoughts pure, for God judges man's heart. Philippians chapter 4 and verse 8, Paul said, "Think on things that are noble and pure and just and lovely and of good report." Keep our thoughts in check today, lest we sin against God and his law in our hearts.